Hey everyone, it's Sarah again with another gardening video. This time it's going to be a garden tour with some minor harvesting since I do have to pick some tomatoes today. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I know that it's been about 2 weeks or so since my last garden tour, but I've been pretty busy with harvesting things and processing things, so I just have not had the time to actually take the time to show you guys some updates in my garden. So the weeds are starting to really show again, but the season for me is probably pretty close to being over, so I'm not really going to worry about that very much. My cucumbers are pretty much done. I haven't really had any. There might be one or two of these cucamelons here or there, but all of the plants are pretty much done. These are still on here, and they're probably going to stay on here until fall. Same thing with the crown of thorns gourd. I've got quite a few of those growing, and quite a few more starting to grow. I don't know if you guys can see them back in there. And then, of course, my strawberry crown winter squash. So this is probably going to be on here for quite some time as well for fall harvest. My pepper plants are finally starting to take off since my zucchini plants have been pruned back. I do need to come in here and pick this one. It's overripe, but it's still edible. And I think there might be... So we will see if other peppers start to grow on this now that they're able to go ahead and take off. I do have a few zucchini that are starting to grow on these plants since I've pruned them back quite a bit. There's some right there. Let me see. There's a nice little flower right there. So we'll see how many more zucchini I can get off these 3 plants before the end of the growing season. And then, of course, here's my lettuce that I'm letting flower and go to seed to see if I can collect the seed from it. So this is the second round of lettuce that I grew. Some of it is still a little bitter, and I think it's because I planted it whenever there was a lot of hot weather and it was growing in hot weather. So I may actually pull it up and then replant end of August, mid-September, so that whenever it's actually starting to get this size, it's cooling down some, and then the leaves won't be nearly as bitter. Green onions are still growing pretty well. These might take some time since there's not direct sunlight. And then my banana peppers are still growing very well. However, they're being overtaken by my tomato plants. You can see I'm having some tomato plant issues, and while I did prune and stake up half the tomato plants, I never got to doing the other half. And I actually have to come through and pick some of these tomatoes today because it is going to rain today, and I don't want them to split or crack and wait until, if I wait till tomorrow to pick them, then they're going to split and crack. So my banana peppers are doing pretty well. I did pick and harvest some last week, and there are some, like that one right there, that are ready to be harvested again. But I'm probably going to wait, and I'm actually going to probably try to stake up this first row of tomatoes at some point if I can, to give these banana peppers some breathing room. Alright, and then you can see that some of my tomato plants are starting to die back, and they're still ripening really well. I did have a little bit of a pest issue at one point. I think a raccoon got in my garden and ate some of my bigger tomatoes, but that's okay. I still have a lot more tomatoes that I'm going to be picking and harvesting. I'm trying to find the best way to get in here. Look how tall that tomato plant is. This plant right here is doing really well. It's got a whole bunch that are just continuously growing. there's a lot of ripe yellow pear. The yellow pear tomato plants did wonderfully. I honestly did not need as many plants as I currently have for the yellow pear. You can just see all of the little yellow tomatoes everywhere. So what I'm doing with the yellow pear tomatoes is sun dry, which is more like oven dry, these yellow pear tomatoes for storage, because I don't want any of this really to go to waste. And I guess the only other thing that I could do is like freeze them and then use them to make my own sauce later on. It's just, I feel like they're not going to be the best to make tomato sauce. But I think utilizing them for sun-dried tomatoes is going to be the best thing for them. There's a Dr. Witchy's that's ready to be picked, and you can actually see amongst the dead leaves that I have not been able to prune some of the San Marzano tomatoes, which are turning out to be very good. I actually made some homemade tomato sauce the other day, and I used the Dr. Witchy's and San Marzano tomatoes, and it turned out really well. So, and I successfully canned them for the first time, so that was pretty exciting. These are my other zucchini plants. Now, with these ones, you can tell some of them are getting some blight. And at this point, I'm just letting it go, just because I have found it so hard to manage everything lately. So I'm just letting the plants do their own thing. There's a zucchini, there's a Pattison scallop squash. And, I mean, some of these, like that plant looks like it's completely fine, but then you have these ones right here that are getting blight. This one doesn't look like much is happening off of it on this side. There is a little squash right here. I may end up pulling this plant out to just give more space for the other plants. But it looks like they're still growing. They're still doing things, so I'm not gonna tear them up. Okay, so these are my jalapenos, and they're staying pretty small. I'm gonna come through here one day and pick these. I did pick some, and they're still flowering a lot. There's still a lot of flowers that are coming up on them. You can't really see them very well, but they did bloom yesterday. So, still trying to figure out what to do with the jalapenos. I think I might pickle them. Maybe do some other things. The cayenne peppers are doing pretty well as well, but they're starting to be overtaken by these ground cherries, which I have honestly not picked anything from them in like 2 weeks. And it's going to rain today, so I can't really pick anything from them today because the tomato plants are a little more important for me today so that they don't crack and split. But I am going to be picking the cherry tomatoes hopefully tomorrow, and then one day this week I'm going to not really shuck, but take all of the ground cherries out of their paper husk, and then I'm going to attempt to make ground cherry jam. I will say, like, in my honest opinion, I do not think I'm going to grow these next year, and any of these, and I'll show you real quick, if any of the fruits that have fallen off and gotten into the ground, if they form any plants next year, I'm honestly just going to pull them up. Unless I end up having like a raised garden bed outside of the main garden dedicated to these, I really don't want to grow them again, just because they're so prolific that they overtake everything. I was not expecting them to grow as well as they did, so they just kind of literally took up a good portion of the garden. Like, for me, that's a pretty big portion of my garden, and I had to put a little pathway in between here so that I could get in and pull all of the ground cherry tomatoes out. And now they're starting to really grow onto my cayenne peppers over here. So my cayenne peppers are getting smothered, and I would much rather have my cayenne peppers growing because I make red pepper flakes. So I'm going to have to rethink that for next year, and I'm probably not going to grow these again. Maybe every other year I'll grow them now that I know how prolific they are and how well they do. So as you can see, the weeds are just doing their own thing over here. I did pick 2 eggplant the other day. There's this one that's currently growing, and there's some that are there was a flower that I saw the other day as well. I think this is, yeah, this one's starting to grow. There's a weed, and then there's a plant, and there's a plant. I've just kind of given up. But whatever comes off of these, I will pick. Next year, I'm definitely probably going to move them out more into the garden so they have more direct sunlight. I think that's one of the downfalls that I had this year with these. And then even though this looks like grass, there are green onions. I did pick some the other day, and I actually roasted some. Here's a bunch. I actually roasted some with some parsnips and carrots, and it was delicious. So I'm still letting the kohlrabi grow. The regular one over there is pretty much the only one that's doing decent. However, it looks like some bugs have been getting to the leaves recently. And then this one right here is doing pretty well as well. This one has a mark in it, I think. Or is it this one? This one does. So I have 2 purple ones that are doing pretty decent, and then a green one that's doing decent as well. The baby bunnies are gone. I haven't seen any in a while, and Freya hasn't been acting weird in a while, like she can sense their scent as she's been in the garden. So I'm pretty sure that they have gone on to better and bigger things. So, oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see that. I just looked over. These blend in so well. I did not even notice them. I'm going to have to find out what these are. I bet you that's what's been eating my kale leaves. There's 1, 2, and there's a third one right there. I wonder what they turn into. They almost look like monarch caterpillars, but I know that they're not. So if you guys know what those are, be sure to leave that in the comment section below. That's interesting. This is my dill plant, by the way. Interesting. So I'm going to go ahead, since I did a brief tour, and I'm going to harvest all of my tomatoes that are ripe, and then I'll show you what I have. Alright, so that's my tomato harvest for today, and a lot of these are those yellow pear tomatoes that I will be drying in the oven for sun-dried tomatoes, quote, end quote. It's pretty much a madhouse in my garden, so really the only things that are going on are the peppers, the tomatoes, and the zucchini, and then those squashes still. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content in the video. If you did, be sure to hit like and subscribe. If you want to know when I am uploading another video, go ahead and hit the alert button. And then if you happen to have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, if you do know what those little worms are that were on my dill plant, be sure to let me know as well. I hope you guys have a great day and happy gardening.